I have talked quite a lot about race and race relations and the concept and theory of race in America, especially on my page extensively in the past. And I get a lot of white people, especially, commenting very odd things like, they're not going to pick you, or you're trying to impress them, or who are you trying to impress? So that's incredibly odd to say. But I study culture. I study media. This is what I study. This is what I know. This is my specialty. Not specifically race, but race in culture, in media, film specifically is my specialty. But also, I think it's odd when all I am saying is factual evidence and people take that as an attack or as me glazing or anything like that. That is an inherent weird-ass red flag to me. If I am talking about the horrors of slavery, there's no question about it. Like, there's no argument about that. And if you are arguing about that, you are to me. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to hear your defense. If I am talking about music styles, art styles that have been stolen, that are traditionally from Black Americans or from African roots, that is not a question, that is fact.
I need to address other white people in my comment section under my pinned recent video, about the definition of racism and how white people cannot experience reverse racism. You guys quite literally are proving the point. Reverse racism literally doesn't exist. The fact that you guys want to experience racism so badly is insane to me. Seek fucking help. You continue to cling on to that definition of racism, word per word, and say, see, it says right here, we can experience it. No, you can't. We can't. You guys always seem to forget to look at the part where it says marginalized or minority, and neither of those things are what white people are. What you're not fucking getting is white people have power. Black people do not. Therefore, we cannot experience racism like they can. I didn't think I had to break that down for you, but apparently I do. And
family, in the recent past, there's been a group of white people coming out and discussing, talking against racism. And family, this is not sitting well with other white folks. White people are now calling out racism within their community. And suddenly, this is being labeled as seeking black approval instead of addressing the real issue. Family, imagine that the groups of white people who are calling out racism are being told by other white folks that they are trying to seek black approval. Right now, there is a fallout, amongst the white community in America because of just addressing racism and any injustice caused against the black man. You notice that not all white people are in support of the end of racism. Not all white people are in support of calling out, these rot that has been in America for the longest time. Family, this is such a shame because white people who are trying to step out, from the white code are being called out and told that, you guys are not good and you guys are trying to seek black approval. So family, in this video, you'll hear as white people discuss why they've been getting a lot of opposition from the people who look like them. So family, watch this video till the end. In a special way, I want to thank my subscribers who are supporting me through buying me a coffee. The link is on the description down below. Thank you so much. Let's watch this video. Once it's done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch the video together, family.
I think one of the most interesting things that I have seen commented on content that I have made, yeah, okay, so let's talk about it. So I have talked quite a lot about race and race relations and the concept and theory of race in America, especially on my page extensively in the past. And I get a lot of white people, especially, commenting very odd things like, they're not going to pick you, or you're trying to impress them, or who are you trying to impress? So that's incredibly odd to say. But I study culture. I study media. This is what I study. This is what I know. This is my specialty. Not specifically race, but race in culture, in media, film specifically is my specialty. But also, I think it's odd when all I am saying is factual evidence, and people take that as an attack or as me glazing or anything like that. That is an inherent weird ass red flag to me. If I am talking about the horrors of slavery, there's no question about it. Like, there's no argument about that. And if you are arguing about that, you are to me. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to hear your defense. If I am talking about music styles, art styles that have been stolen, that are traditionally from Black Americans or from African roots, that is not a question, that is fact. That's just something that's happened. If I'm talking about Jim Crow, segregation, modern day racism, police brutality, the Ronald Reagan era, if I am talking about any of that, this is not just my opinions. This is not just what I'm saying. This is academic research that I have learned about and that I discuss. And I am not saying I am the end all be all. There's so much for me to still learn. Discussion is completely necessary. Interpretation of data is always, different for people, but there are facts that are irrefutable. Fact. Slavery was bad. Slavery was bad. I don't know why I have to clarify that. It is a fact that Ronald Reagan did irrefutable damage to the Black community and honestly to the whole community in terms of class. But that's not my opinion. That's not my opinion. But I just think it is so odd that when I talk about these things, people immediately assume I have an agenda of being accepted, approved, loved, whatever. No, because the thing is something that has stuck out to me for years. Somebody talked about it years ago, was an example of privilege is that my history is taught to everyone and your history is an elective. But history is history. And I think that learning all history is important because, as George Santayana said, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. So I do talk about it. I have no shame in talking about it. And I'm always open to learn more. I'm always open to discussion. And I'm not saying that I should be the leader of such discussion. But I do think that we all should be open to these conversations without it being a thing of approval or acceptance.
I'm coming on here talking to the white racist people. The people who are faded black because they got black in them, and further back in generations and in the DNA, they got black in them. We all do. But I'm talking to you, the ones who feel as if it's okay to treat their cousins, because, the black people, the darker skin tone, they're your cousins further on. How you treat them like they're not humans, how you act as if they don't exist, how you would rather kill them out than to talk to them like a normal person and treat them like your real cousin, like they probably are. How it was okay and you accept and love how they were treated, how they were lynched, how they were thrown to live in sheds, how they had to stand in a field for hours on hours on hours pulling some cotton, but you guys didn't have to do it. How it was okay for them to make inventions and then the white folk took them as if they worked hard to make that invention. How they stole their land, how they stole their names, how they stole their kids, how they stole even them. They didn't even give them a birth certificate, as if, again, they wasn't human. You would drag them on the dirt road. I mean, would you allow that to happen to your cousins, your kids? Huh? Would you? Because all of this that happened in history is disgusting. And you guys are still furthering it along now. When are you guys going to open your eyes and notice that we are all relatives? We all have a connection some way, somehow. We all have black in us. Far back in our DNA, if you look, you have black in you. So you think it's okay to treat your own cousins like that? Huh? Do you? It's past sickness. It's past sickness. When are you guys going to open your eyes and notice that God made us all? We're all human beings. Did you hear me? We're all human beings. Get that in your brains. Because God ain't going to allow you to come to heaven unless you love everyone, unless you treat everyone equal. So you better start treating all of your cousins correct.
Hey, good morning. So I need to address other white people in my comment section under my recent video, my pinned recent video, about the definition of racism and how white people cannot experience reverse racism. You guys quite literally are proving the point. Reverse racism literally doesn't exist. The fact that you guys want to experience racism so badly is insane to me. Seek fucking help. You continue to cling on to that definition of racism word per word and say, see, it says right here, we can experience it. No, you can't. We can't. You guys always seem to forget to look at the part where it says marginalized or minority, and neither of those things are what white people are. What you're not fucking getting is white people have power. Black people do not. Therefore, we cannot experience racism like they can. I didn't think I had to break that down for you, but apparently I do. And no, if a black person is working in a certain position, that does not mean that they have power. Racism is still actively a thing regardless of their position. Their job title does not mean that they fucking have power. Let's use our fucking brains. Society and the government itself was built for white people. Meaning anybody who is not white, it's harder for them in the long run. Hence why racism is actively thriving. White privilege is a fucking thing. And a lot of you prove that point and show your white privilege and show your fucking ass in my comment section. And you're doing it now in that pinned video. White people can experience prejudice, not racism. Not liking a white person because they are white does not mean that that is racism. It just means that you're just not liked. It literally states what it is right here. Pay attention. Listen. The main difference between prejudice and racism is the element of power. While anyone can hold a prejudice, a preconceived negative opinion not based on reason, racism is prejudice combined with the institutional and systemic power to discriminate, oppress, or harm a racial group. Keywords, folks. Here's another one. Understanding the key distinction. The presence of power is the critical factor that distinguishes racism from prejudice. For a racial prejudice to become racism, it must be accompanied by the power to enforce discrimination and oppression through societal institutions and practices. This means that while a person of color can hold a prejudice against a white person, it does not constitute racism because it does not operate within the context of systemic, institutionalized power structure. Literally tells you right fucking there the answer that you guys seem to keep missing. That same Google that you guys are referring to when you pull up the definition literally is the same place you can go and actually do your research and understand things without just grasping onto straws. You know that, right? Also, make sure it's a credible source. .com is not a credible source. So if you're getting any of your information from a .com and saying, oh, it's a credible source, I Googled it, that's not a credible source. We all went to school, therefore you should know what a credible source is and how you had to cite credible sources because it has to be credible in order for it to be the truth. If you don't understand why black people do not like white people, that is the problem. You're taking offense to that and not realizing it. It has nothing to do with just slavery. It has everything to do with present time. Racism is still actively thriving. White people put on a show all the fucking time to pretend like they are allies or pretend that they have black people's back and don't, and they're actually undercover racists. And even if you are not actively racist and you are anti-racism, you can still do harmful things toward the black community, and that is another reason why they choose to not trust us. Now, I used to get offended because I'm like, I don't understand. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not racist. I don't hate black people. But I was still doing things that were harmful to black people. So, yeah, they're going to question me and give me the side eye. They're not going to trust me because of that. Not because I'm actively being racist, because I never was. I used to take offense to that. But then it's called growing up, doing your own research, realizing the facts, and knowing that you could still be harmful even if you don't have an issue. And the problem is taking offense and getting defensive instead of learning, unlearning, and doing better. If you do not have a problem with black people, do better. It's not hard.
Family, it's very funny to see white people fight over the calling out of racism in America. It's funny that now some other group of white people are jealous that this issue is being discussed by people who look like them. They feel offended, they feel threatened because finally some people are opening their eyes to the truth. They're opening their eyes to see that whatever has been perpetuated in Black communities over the years is something that is actually very, very wrong. When you look at the history of Black people in America, it's a saddening history, and family seeing other white folks actually coming out and discussing about it is something that myself, I feel it's very, very nice. It's a time that I think we are living in a time of awakening, a time where people are seeing their mistakes and they're trying to call out the very same mistakes and advising people who look like them to stop, with the discrimination, to stop with any racist ideology that they're still pushing in America. When I see a white person talking about slavery, talking about reparations, saying that Black people actually do deserve to get reparations, it's something that I feel so, so nice that is actually happening right now in America. It saddens me so much when I see other white people fight people who are woke, people who've seen the truth, people who are ready to address a rot that has been normalized in America over the years. Family, it's so, so sad seeing these white people fighting because of trying to restore what was made to be difficult for Black people in America. Family, this white lady in the video says that white people take her as a threat when she talks about slavery. Whenever she speaks about slavery, some of their people think she's a threat. They think that she's not supposed to be speaking about that because it's not affecting her. That's how you know that some people have been taught. They've grown in systems that have been anti-Black. That's why they feel when they see people who look like them talking about racism, talking about slavery as a threat, because they are taught to see Black people as inferiors. They do not want anyone to defend Black people, especially people who look like them. The other thing she said is that music styles, art styles, were originally from Black Americans or African groups, and some of these facts does not sit well with other white people when she talks about it. And she insists and says that these are actual facts. This is nothing but the truth. White people are actually stealing a lot of ideas from Black people. Let's talk about innovations for a minute. We know the very first civilizations root from Africa. We know how they whitewash the history to try and lie, to try and make Black people to look like people who actually were taught by them. Family, that's the sad reality in the world right now, because the white supremacists really pushed so hard to try and make Black folks look inferior. He pushed so hard to even try, and tailor make the education system to fit like they know, while Black people learn from them. They tried so, so hard to push the same ideologies during the days of slavery and colonization in Africa. And that is the sad reality, that they do not want the modern day white man to know the truth of. They want him to remain knowing that the Black man is a no one. When they see the white man come out and talk against their own people, they feel like a threat. They feel like this one is not putting our interests first. Family, this is the sad reality right now in America. When a white person calls out another white person, it brings up, the fallout we are seeing in this video. A white lady speaking against slavery is an issue to the white community in America. Family, these are the times that we all have been waiting for. A time where a white person can call out a mistake done by another white folk. She proceeds to talk about segregation, and she says, when I talk about segregation, Jim Crow, modern day racism, police brutality, I am talking about facts, and these facts are not sitting well with other white folks. Family, if we look at whatever she's mentioned here, segregation, was it good? Didn't segregation happen in America? When she spoke about Jim Crow, the Jim Crow era a lie. These people do not like the truth. The modern day racism that black people are still facing in America, the injustices, the police brutality that black folks are still facing in America, these are all factual. These are all things that are still happening in a rotten system full of white supremacist ideologies in the government. That's why we are seeing such things still happening in America. And when other white folks call out this rot, others feel threatened. They do not want black folks to move from the position they are in to another. They least expect to hear some of this information from their own people. When they speak about slavery in this video, are they talking about lies? Are these things not factual? Why do these people feel threatened? Then there's this other group of white people that whenever somebody talks about racism, whenever somebody calls out the rot, they now start playing the reverse racism card. And another white lady in the video has explained to us so well that reverse racism is not a thing. There's nothing like that. Not liking a white person is not racism. You're just not liked. This is a white person explaining. When you feel you're not liked, it's not about reverse racism. It's about that person not just liking you. The main difference between prejudice and racism is power. Racism is prejudice combined with the institutional and systemic power to discriminate, the power to oppress or harm a racial group. So the white lady in the video also calls out other white people who say, that they face reverse racism, that there is nothing like that. There is no way you'll face racism as a white person in America. You can only face prejudice because of somebody else's, opinion, not because they have power to rule you. They do not have power to oppress you or power to even harm you as a racial group. Family, in this video, I have learned a lot, and I've learned the fact that white people feel threatened when they see other people who look like them calling out the injustices they've been causing in Black America. Family, like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users, and I'd be very, very grateful. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video. Lastly, I'd highly appreciate if you all took your time to subscribe to the channel. It is actually free. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, share the video with your family and friends, and I'd be very, very grateful. Thank you so much, and see you all in our next video. Goodbye for now.